Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news. What is going on at Manchester United? A lot of breaking news over the weekend since we were last live, and obviously the main talking point is Dan Ashworth has left his role as Director of Football at Manchester United. We're going to dive into it. We're going to see why. There's a lot of updates even coming through in the last maybe 10 or 15 minutes that we want to talk about, but we're going to focus mainly on Ineos and are they doing a good job at Manchester United. They've been there now for the bones of 12 months and we're going to discuss a little bit about how they're doing, and I want to get your opinions as well and how happy ye are with what Ineos are doing at the moment. We're also going to talk a little bit about transfer news. There's some updates in relation to a new striker coming in. Victor Osimhen has been heavily linked with Manchester United. Again, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Paul Pogba and a potential return again to Manchester United. And there's been reports again suggesting that Real Madrid are keen on signing Diogo Dalot. So we'll get into that as well. But as always, guys, please do smash a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you are new, on the road to 13,000 subscribers. So do help us out if you're new, and as always I do want your comments and your thoughts and your opinions. Get them into the live chat, or if you're looking back at this at a later date, get them into the comment section below. I want to know what you guys think. But we're going to start, of course, with the major breaking news over the weekend, that Dan Ashworth has left Manchester United after 5 months as sporting director. Huge news, and took everybody by shock. Nobody saw it coming. And when you think about not only the fact that he's only been there 5 months, but Manchester United spent 5 months chasing him. He was on gardening leave, negotiating with Newcastle United. They wanted 20 million, not a chance. I think we eventually paid 2 million for him, so he didn't have to see out the entirety of his gardening leave. And he was hailed as the sporting director to beat all others, and Manchester United wanted him. They wanted to build a team around him. He was, integral to what, Ineos wanted to do going forward. And it's lasted only 5 months. It has lasted only 5 months. Obviously, David Ornstein broke it, but we've had updates from Laurie Whitwell and Adam Crafton in The Athletic. A really in-depth analysis and piece. I'd advise you to go and read it if you haven't done so already. But they're saying that Dan Ashworth did not provide clear, compelling arguments for who to bring in. His list of managers included Eddie Howe, Marco Silva, Thomas Frank, Graham Potter as a potential interim. And this was obviously on the back of Erik ten Hag keeping his job in the summer after the FA Cup final, and then subsequently losing his job a few weeks ago. Dan Ashworth supposedly has been, or was, very pushy in relation to who he wanted to replace Erik ten Hag. He wanted it to be somebody with Premier League experience, and that's why this list of managers was drawn up by him as well. Now, there was one name that every Manchester United fan in the summer, and then when Erik ten Hag was sacked, was worried about, and that we couldn't keep it quiet enough and not say his name, and that was Gareth Southgate. And there are reports today as well suggesting that Dan Ashworth felt sidelined from big decisions at Manchester United almost from day one, with Omar Barada and Sir Dave Brailsford calling the shots. The tipping point was Ruben Amorim's appointment. Ashworth wanted a British coach. He wanted Gareth Southgate. Now, these reports and these rumours were coming out in the summer, and me included, and the majority of Manchester United fans completely dismissed them. They wouldn't be that stupid. Nobody at Manchester United would want Gareth Southgate. Supposedly, the story goes, is that Manchester United wanted Gareth Southgate to commit to taking over as Manchester United manager once he was finished with England in the summer. Now, the story goes on to suggest that Gareth Southgate, if he had have won the Euros, would have taken England into the next World Cup in 2 years' time. However, if he didn't, which subsequently was what happened, he was going to be the next Manchester United manager. Man United weren't willing to wait, and they said, no, we're moving on. We can't wait until after the Euros for you to make your mind up. And subsequently, that was one of the main reasons why we stuck with Erik ten Hag. Now, these are compelling reports, and I mean, if anything deserves a sacking, more, it's wanting Gareth Southgate as Manchester United manager, in my opinion. However, this is one of a number of different, I suppose, big decisions made out of Ineos. And I go back to what we've said before about, were they, Dan Ashworth was who Ineos wanted, and look, I don't mind. Sometimes things don't work out, and sometimes, a person doesn't fit in with, and when you think about it as well, in the past 12 months, obviously Ineos have come in, Dave Brailsford has come in, Jean-Claude Blanc has come in, Omar Barada has come in, Jason Wilcox has come in, Dan Ashworth has come in, Vivell has come in as well. Out of them 7 or 8 people, surely not all of them are going to get on with one another, and there may be some collateral. But what's funny, and when you realise and when you think about the extent at which Ineos scouted and really went after Dan Ashworth, to sack him after 5 months is a massive, massive, massive call. And it's one that I am baffled with. I have to say, I really, really am baffled with. Now, look, we have been hearing some reports come out, obviously since the news broke yesterday, about who could potentially replace him as director of football. The Atletico Madrid director of football has been mentioned. The PSG director of football, Luis Campos, has been mentioned as well. However, for the upcoming January transfer window, David Ornstein has been speaking on the Athletic FC podcast, saying Christopher Vivell will be heavily involved in the January transfer window for Manchester United. Now, we do know he was brought in on a temporary basis, and does this mean that Vivell is potentially going to get promoted now that Dan Ashworth is gone? Or are we going to see maybe a sharing of responsibilities between Vivell, between Barada, between Jason Wilcox? That remains to be seen. There was some reports today as well suggesting that Ralph Rangnick is potentially being touted as another option to replace Dan Ashworth. I don't really know, to be quite honest with you. I can't see Ralph Rangnick doing that. I mean, he's still the Austria head coach as far as I'm aware. So I don't see why he would leave a managerial position like that to come back to Manchester United, when you would probably say, and I know it was under a previous regime, but you would have to say that he wasn't treated the best at Manchester United. He really, really wasn't. And I would be massively surprised. But Christopher Vivell supposedly is going to be the guy to take us into the January transfer window. Obviously, alongside the likes of Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox and whoever else is going to be involved in the transfer, and Ruben Amorim as well. I want to know what you guys think. Guys, get your thoughts and opinions into the live chat, and we'll go down through them. Let's see what you're saying. Ruben Amorim fan says, "Evening, Jack. How great is it to see Arsenal Corner FC drop points once again?" Yeah, it's always nice to see Arsenal drop points, isn't it? Dylan says, "I think Ineos will have done great if they get rid of this shit in the club. Ashworth gone is the best. I think he wasn't getting on with Amorim. He wasn't. He wanted Southgate, and they're showing their trust in Amorim." Amorim fan says, on the Ashworth news, I understand that the reason for it, so I can't really complain. It was a mix of his personality and methods not resonating well enough with the rest of the team. If we're talking replacements for Ashworth, would you or anyone say no to Ralph Rangnick reunion? I think he'd be a great fit for us, and I think his choice of player signings is the strength he has. Yeah, look, I mean, I was a big fan of Ralph Rangnick when he was at Manchester United, not necessarily, as a coach. I think the role was too big for him, as a head coach. However, he knows what he's talking about, and the majority of the things that he said when he was there at Manchester United have come to fruition. He said open heart surgery was needed. You need players to run. You need players to, energy levels, high intensity players. And that's what we're looking at now with Ruben Amorim, and he wants the same. So I wouldn't be against I wouldn't be against Ralph Rangnick coming back at all. I just don't think it will happen, given the fact that he's currently the manager of Austria. D says, there's items in the back of my fridge that have lasted longer than Ashworth at the club. Ashworth was the driving force for wanting Southgate in. Toodaloo. There you go. Like, the one thing I would say as well, when it comes to these changes, is that, you know, there's a number of different things at play here, you know, when it comes to Ineos making this decision so quickly. And the two ways that I look at it really is that, first of all, they made a big mistake, okay? And if they did, that's on them, and it's the first mistake that they've really made. Well, you could say maybe keeping Erik ten Hag for the extended period of time that they did was you know, maybe a mistake as well. However, this feels like such a big... this feels like the mistake that they've made. And the reason why I say that is that because you've headhunted him and you've scouted him for so long, surely you have to have your due diligence done about who you're going to appoint in such an important role as director of football. We should have known, Ineos should have known, whoever appointed Dan Ashworth should have known he might have a personality clash here with, you know, Omar Barada or Jason Wilcox, or, you know, even someone like Dave Brailsford or Jim Ratcliffe in general. So I think that is a mistake on Ineos's part. However, the other way that you can look at this is, are they being ruthless, and are they being proper businessmen here and saying, and I don't mean business in terms of making money or anything, but in terms of running the club correctly, and have they gone, okay, we've made a mistake, let's pull the trigger now, you know, and get rid of him now, rather than leaving it for a year or 2 or 3, and then things are not going right in the background, and, you know, there's clashes there, and all of a sudden signings are not getting agreed on, and we stagnate in the transfer window for another couple of seasons, and we don't progress. So there is two ways of looking at everything. There's two sides to every coin, and I hope it's the latter, and I hope they have been quite cutthroat and say, look, this hasn't worked out. Sorry, Dan, we'll pay you off. You've got to go, and let's get somebody in who matches, what the rest of the team are looking for. And I hope that is the case, but it's a huge, huge call. And it's a call that, it's a call that probably we won't know for a while whether it's right, whether it's the right one or not. D says, Amram needs to get them to break this no over 25 cap. We need the ones who choose when to show up out, and that goes for Bruno too. Those passes, 75% of them, they don't work. We need 2 centre forwards. Ben says, it's good to see a fast decision on something like this. And Ashworth, if you're not happy, know where the door is. 2 years ago, this would have been dragged out. Exactly. And D agrees exactly, Ben. Ineos aren't effing about with anything. They're getting their business done and corrected when it needs doing. Yeah, I hope that's the case, and I think I think that they are cutthroat and ruthless when it comes to that. I mean, Jim Ratcliffe is is the utmost businessman, so he isn't going to hang around. And we know from even when he took over at Manchester United, or he bought into Manchester United, he made it clear that he's in a hurry. He's in a hurry. He's not, he's not young. And he wants to make Manchester United successful again. And whether that be the case or whether that comes to fruition, that remains to be seen. We're going to have a look at some of the big decisions that have been made by Ineos. Okay? And I want your opinion on this, guys. I want to know, are they doing a good job? Okay? And again, I spotted this on Twitter earlier on. So Ineos's first 10 months at Manchester United: extended Erik ten Hag's contract and sacked him, costing millions. Appointed Dan Ashworth and sacked him, costing millions. Unprecedented ticket pay rises. Mass redundancies. Overseeing the worst on-field results since the 1980s. 28 league games, 35 points since the takeover happened. Okay, now not all of these can be put on Ineos, okay? And I've said on multiple occasions, and I will continue to say so, you do not turn around 20 years of mismanagement from the Glazers in 12 months. You just do not do that. It is impossible. It is absolutely, categorically impossible to turn around the mismanagement that the Glazers created at Manchester United and the position they put us in. Ineos cannot do that in 12 months. They can't. Now, we're talking about these points here. Extending Erik ten Hag's contract. I was behind Erik ten Hag. I wanted him to be given more time. I wanted to see what he could do under the new regime. That turned out to be a mistake. Giving him an extension on his contract, I thought was probably at the time the right thing to do. After the FA Cup final, I said he deserves more time. He does deserve more time given what he's done. And hopefully with a new summer transfer window where you've got a structure behind him that are competent and know what they're doing, you know, he can kick on and hopefully improve. That didn't turn out to be the case. We got a good summer transfer window in. When you look at the players we signed, all of the players we signed in the summer transfer window, bar just question marks over Xerxes, but outside of that, Ugarte was a good signing, Lenny Yoro was a good signing, De Ligt was a good signing, and Mazraoui was a good signing. Okay, all good signings. Xerxes has yet to prove himself. But what happened with Ten Hag was that the results remained the same. And results remained the same without the injuries he had in the previous season. And that's why he was let go. So I don't think that was specifically on Ineos, I think. And we do know that they scouted other managers in the summer, and that was their right. They can do that if they want. Absolutely no problem. But ultimately, extending Erik ten Hag's contract and triggering that 1 year extension in his deal, when you sack him, you've then got to pay him that extra year as well. So that's going to add up to it. Appoint Dan Ashworth and sack him, costing millions. So that's obviously on today. And again, we've spoken an awful lot about that. I hope it's the case that Ineos have realised quickly he's not the man. He doesn't fit in with what we want. We've made a mistake. We're pulling the trigger quickly on it rather than, hopefully it'll work out in 2 or 3 years' time. And I hope that's the case. The unprecedented ticket price rise is something I am adamantly against. Okay, I think it's an absolute disgrace what they've done. It really, really is. And I'm completely against that. And I think it's quite a coincidence, or is it a coincidence? You guys let me know that the same amount of money they will generate from this ticket price increase that they announced last week is the same amount of money that we'll have to pay Dan Ashworth out of his contract with. So, coincidence or not, I don't know. Completely against that. Mass redundancies. Again, it's always really, really disappointing and really sad to see people lose their jobs. But that's the way of the world when it comes to business. Manchester United were being mismanaged and misrun for decades under the Glazers, okay? And Jim Radcliffe knows how to streamline the business. He's done it in the chemical world. He's done it in the sporting world with cycling, with sailing, with obviously with Nice as well. He knows how to streamline a business and to get the figures right. Okay, and if that means mass redundancies, then that means mass redundancies. 250 jobs were lost. Manchester United were the highest employer out of any of the teams in the Premier League. I think it was hovering around. I think the average is around 1,000 employees per club. Manchester United were sitting at about 1,300, I think. So while it is disappointing, you never like to see anyone lose their job. I think if you're streamlining a business, there's going to be job losses. It's always going to be the case. You know what I mean? And I do understand that, you're talking about, but why would you not just fucking sell Anthony and save money that way? I understand. And you would hope things like that are going to come down the line. And it's a lot harder to get rid of somebody like that. You can't legally. You know what I mean? Whereas, the average everyday employee like myself and like you, when redundancies come, they come, and there's not a lot you can do about it. They've got their bases covered. Overseeing the worst on-field results since the 1980s, 28 league games, 35 points from the takeover. Again, this is something that we can't really put on Ineos, in my opinion. They've had one transfer window since they've come in, and the majority of this was, Eric Ten Hag's reign. We've seen obviously Ruben Amorim come in and he's having a difficult start, and of course that's going to be the case when you're completely changing tactics and formation and style of play and ethos within the playing squad. So I think the majority of that is poor signings. And again, the hangover from the old regime where, up until this summer, I mean, we sold 14 players this summer. We've got to remember that. I think our outgoings were just as impressive as our incomings in the summer just gone. So you would hope that the on-field results will improve with better transfer windows as we go. And I think Ineos' first transfer window was an impressive one. I thought they got it right. Again, I go back to the Xerxes one. It's probably the only one with question marks over it. My main takeaway from Ineos, my main takeaway from Ineos over the 12 months that they've been there is that the changes that they've made generally have been positive changes, in my opinion. Again, I say redundancies. It's always going to happen when you're streamlining a business like that. Ten Hag, I thought, deserved time to get at least one transfer window under his belt with Ineos. It didn't work out. Dan Ashworth will know, that'll work itself out in the wash. The only thing I don't agree with is the ticket prices, like I said. And I think the decisions that have been made now, we will not realise whether they are the right decisions or not for another year or two down the line. So there may be an awful lot of upheaval at the moment in the media and United are in crisis and all of this nonsense. Let's see what happens in a year or two, and let's see what happens, subsequently with these decisions. We'll know whether they're the right ones or not. I think and I hope more than anything else that Ineos pulling the trigger on Dan Ashworth after 5 months is their way of saying, we're holding our hands up, we got it wrong, but we're pulling the trigger on it now, rather than leaving it for 2, 3, 4 years like the Glazers maybe would do. And I think I hope that's the smart business side coming out of Ineos. But again, like I said, we won't know that for another 2 or 3 years, whether that was the right decision or not. So I wouldn't be jumping to conclusions anytime soon. I really wouldn't. Let me know what you guys think in the chat as well. Let me see what you saying here. What you saying? Dylan says, if we didn't extend Ten Hag, we wouldn't have Amorim. We'd have Tuchel now. Well, every cloud, you know what I mean? Ruben says, Ineos have shown since they came in that they're not afraid for some ruthless action. They sacked 200 members of the club, sacked Ten Hag when the result was a robbery. And wasn't afraid to sack Ashworth. He also says, I think they're doing a good job in my eyes and doing their best they can for the club. Bilal says, no Champions League football. That is why increase in ticket prices. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear Super League once again, plus Premier League matches taking place in such places like Vegas, Dubai, LA, Shanghai. Yeah, I don't see that happening. To be honest with you, Super League. Yeah, I just don't think the pyramid will be split up. I just don't. Connor says, are you doing the Manchester United match on Thursday? I'm not, unfortunately. It's on 5:45. It's just a nightmare of a time. And yeah, I'll be minding the kids, so unfortunately I won't be. But I will be. I'll be doing. I'll do a match reaction video that night. Usual time, about 9 o'clock. But of course I will be live for the Manchester Derby on Sunday. So apologies about that. But again, it's just, it's tough. See, the first 2 years of doing this channel, my wife was pretty much on maternity leave for the whole time. So I had all the time in the world to do videos. She's obviously back to work now, so yeah, this is not my full-time job, even though I wish it was. Is Christopher Vivell going in as sporting director now? No, look, I think it'll just be, I reckon it's going to be just a, the role will be shared between, Vivell, Barada, Wilcox, all of them. You're running away with your imagination now. The increase in ticket prices is to try and offset the debt that the Glazers put the club in. Nothing more, nothing less. People throwing shit at Ineos because they failed at Nice. Well, look, I mean, did they fail at Nice? I mean, for Nice to be, I think they're 5th in League One at the moment. I would call that a success. I think they got into the Champions League a couple of times with them as well. When you're going up against the powerhouses of PSG and I don't know who else is top. Is it Marseille or whoever the case may be? I'm not sure. I wouldn't say they failed, to be honest with you. Stick a like on the video, folks, says D. There we go, guys. Get that like button hit if you don't mind. Please do smash a like on the video. It helps the channel out an awful lot. And subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you are new, jump in, say hello, and give me your opinions on everything that's going on at United at the moment. Ruben says, the biggest problem Ineos did was give Ten Hag time. Yes, I know we all need to see a third season to test if it was him or just the injuries, and a month ago only pulled the trigger. We left it too late. Bilal says, I agree with the debt fact. But alongside that debt, the problem has been the abysmal running of the football club too. Well, of course, that's coming off the back of 2 decades of mismanagement. How long will Ineos give Amorim? Well, he's got a 2.5-year contract. I think that's more than enough time for him to show progression and give us an idea of where we want to go. So, I'm all for it. Anyone on TikTok as well, guys, I do apologise. Get over to YouTube. We're live over there as well. Link is on my homepage. Reading out all the comments over on YouTube. So come on over and get involved in the live chat over there. Like I said, the link is on my homepage, United Community Channel. D says, that's again been under the Glazers. This is a new regime. Give them long enough to get their work in motion. Dylan says, did you see Omar Barada transfer listed loads of players? Garnacho, Bruno, loads of others. That's complete nonsense. What about the Atletico director of football? He was linked to United when Ineos took over. Yeah, he's been linked again. And again, look, I'm not going to go too much into who's going to replace Dan Ashworth, because I would be lying if I said I knew anything about these directors of football. I didn't really know much about Dan Ashworth before he came in. I knew he'd done a good job, with the FA in England and with Brighton. And of course, he was at Newcastle. But outside of that, I mean, I wouldn't say the majority of United fans did. He needs at least 2 summer transfer windows minimum. Amorim is a long-term solution to a problem we thought unsolvable. I agree. Ineos didn't make the mistake about Ten Hag. We all wanted it as well. There we go. Right, guys, going to move it on. I'm going to talk a little bit about transfers, okay, because we want to talk about, obviously January is coming up, and, are United going to be active in the January transfer window? It remains to be seen. The one thing that is there and the one thing that is apparent is that we need to sign players. We need to strengthen our squad. And, when you're talking about, you're talking about the areas that we need to strengthen. Obviously, we know the left side is an area of concern. We're looking at, obviously, Luke Shaw is injured again. Malacia is only returning. Even the likes of Lisandro Martinez, hasn't looked the same player this season. He's looked a little bit off since he came back from injury. So we know that's an area of concern. However, Tattoo Dub says, we're trying to comment on YouTube. Is it sub only? Yeah, so hit the subscribe button on YouTube, guys, and then you can comment away. You need to be a subscriber to comment in the live chat on YouTube. But we know the main area of concern with Manchester United over the last couple of years has been goals. It's been goals. We've seen the negative goal difference. And I would say, for the most part this season, our defences look good. It has looked good. Even under Ten Hag, I thought, we look solid enough. I think De Ligt has hit the ground running as a Manchester. He had a couple of poor games, of course, but, on the whole, I think he's been quite good. Mazraoui has been fantastic. Delors has been, probably hasn't, like, when we look at Delors last season, was one of our best players. He's having a bit of a dip in form this season. Even the likes of Harry Maguire, before he got injured, was playing well. So, on the whole, I think the defence has been quite good. It's been goals we've been lacking up front, hasn't it? It really has. And a player that we've been linked with on a number of occasions, not really too strongly, however, it is coming back out again in the last few days, is Victor Osimhen. Now, these reports are suggesting that Manchester United could be the ones to pay Victor Osimhen's £62 million release clause in the January transfer window. There is a break clause in his loan deal at Galatasaray. And another report goes on to say then that Man United are sending their senior scouts to Turkey to watch Victor Osimhen ahead of a possible £62 million move. Now look, we know Victor Osimhen can score goals, and I think the sentiment that we all have for Rasmus Højlund is admirable. It really, really is, okay? However, is Rasmus Højlund going to go out and score 30 goals a season? At the moment, that's a no. It just is a no. You know what I mean? Now, do you put your money then on someone like Victor Osimhen coming in and spending another 60 million on a striker? Now, we spent 60 million on Rasmus Højlund. So if you're talking about an experienced striker like Victor Osimhen coming in for the same price, it doesn't seem like too bad of a deal, considering the fact that he was being valued at 120, 130, 140 million euro even, like 12 months ago, 18 months ago. So I would love to see Victor Osimhen at Manchester United. I think the main reason that Manchester United maybe haven't gone for them, and again, we spoke an awful lot about this in the summer, didn't we, was that we wanted maybe to bring in somebody similar to Rasmus Højlund in terms of profile and age that could share the responsibilities, rather than bringing in a big name sign. Like, if we bring in Victor Osimhen, he plays every game. He plays every single game, or he plays 99% of the games. What is that going to do to Rasmus Højlund's progression? And I think he stagnates because he's not going to get the game time. Now, what's going to happen then? Is the likes of Joshua Zirkzee's Manchester United career going to be cut short? Well, again, I don't think within the Manchester United fan base, at least. Again, look, I always say minimum of 2 seasons you need to prove yourself. We look at Andre Onana. I know he made a clanger on the weekend against Forest, but you look at him and you look at where he was last year in his first year as Manchester United number one. There was people calling for him to be sold straight away, after 12 months, and I think he's up there with is the most clean sheets in the Premier League? He's been fantastic this season. So, that is a concern. And I don't know, do you get rid of Joshua Zirkzee straight away? Look, the signs for Joshua Zirkzee haven't been great, starting off. So, again, do you cut your losses and move on? You would hope that Ineos, again, we spoke about Ineos being cutthroat and moving on the Dan Ashworth dismissal quickly. I hope that they do the same with the players that need to be moved on in this Manchester United squad. We heard Omar Barada speaking and reports talking about him when he was first brought in at Manchester United, that he gives players 2 seasons. You get 2 seasons, and if you don't prove yourself in your second season, you're out. You're gone. Fucking done. Jimmy done. Down the road. See you later. And that's the way it has to be. I spoke about sentimentality an awful lot over the last 12 to 18 months. And I do have a lot of sentiment towards Rasmus Højlund. I think he has the minerals to be a top striker. I really do. But do we have the time to wait another 2 years for him to hit that, mark of 30 goals a season? And the big concern here as well is that there's goals nowhere else in this team. Garnacho is not consistent enough in scoring goals, even though I think he's our top goal scorer this season. Bruno's not scoring enough. Marcus Rashford is running out of time. Anthony is dirt. Ahmad is wing back now. How much is he really going to be contributing in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net? Mason Mount doesn't score a lot of goals if he plays. Joshua Zirkzee has scored 3 goals all season so far. There's not enough goals in this team, So if we're talking about somebody like Victor Osimhen, who is proven to go out and score that now, and again, I will, say straight off the bat, that does not mean he's going to come into the Premier League and score goals either, because we've seen an awful lot of people come from Serie A who have burned it up in Serie A and done nothing in the Premier League. Okay, and again, if we were to go and sign Victor Osimhen in the January transfer window, he's coming from the Turkish league. I mean, it's going to take him 3-4 weeks to get up to speed, minimum, to the Premier League. You know what I mean? It just is. That's like all the years of PSG playing in a shit league, and then they go into the Champions League and they get found out. You know what I mean? So there are them kind of concerns as well. I would love Victor Osimhen to come to me. We need goals in our team. We have to start scoring goals. And if that means getting Victor Osimhen for 60 million, then go get him. Just go get him. go get him, and sell Joshua Zirkzee. And just sell him, And again, sentimentality, if you can get 25 million for him, okay, great. Offset it against Victor Osimhen, whatever the case may be. We need goals in our team because I just don't see how we get anywhere near top 4, top 6 with the amount of goals we're scoring at the moment. I think defensively, like I said, I think we're decent, and I think there's a lot to be positive about when it comes to United defensively in terms of the back three, and Ugarte is starting to do well. It's that forward line. There's not enough goals in that forward line, and it's a big, big, big concern. So if that means going out and getting Victor Osimhen for 60 million, just go do it, in my opinion. Let's see what you guys think. And when you look at it as well, before I start reading the comments, look at all the teams that are, or the majority of the teams even, that are above us in the league, all right? You're talking, let me go up the league table here. So you're talking Liverpool, Mo Salah, Chelsea, Cole Palmer, Arsenal, Saka, Man City, Haaland, Nottingham Forest, Chris Wood, Aston Villa, Ollie Watkins, Brighton, fucking even Danny Welbeck. Who else we got? Brentford, Fulham, Spurs, Son, Newcastle, Isak. Goals. Goals. Like you look at Spurs. Spurs are 1 point ahead of us in the league. They've got a plus 12 goal difference, and we've got a plus 1 goal difference. You know what I mean? We need to get goals in our team if we want to move up that table. We just do. We just do. Let's see. Finn says, Rasmus isn't ready to be the main man yet, or maybe never. Bilal says, United need to buy at least 2 to 3 midfielders. If we can get better midfielders, such as these who are technically superior to what we have currently, then only we will improve our midfield. Clarion says, I hope we can get someone that's a specialist in data, like what Poole and Arsenal and other top clubs have. We can't afford the big money players anymore, so need the bargains. Well, I agree, you do, and that goes all the way back to what Ralph Rangnick said about getting players in on their first or second contracts who are hungry and looking to make a name for themselves. What a lot of the clubs like Dortmund do, like Brighton do, buy them in early, develop them, and sell them on at a massive profit. Now, Manchester United don't need to do that final part. You bring them in, develop them, and keep them. You know what I mean? But I do think you can mix and match. I do think you do need that signing. That now, it doesn't have to be £100 million signing every summer. It doesn't. But you need the established players every now and again, and then throw in your Highlands, or your Lenny Yoros, mix them in amongst. I think there is a balance there. Test the water with Cole Palmer. He's a United fan. He would cost 150 million at this stage, so he would. And why would he? Why would he go to United, even though he's a United fan? Chelsea are currently 4 points off the top of the table. You know what I mean? They're in second at the moment. So, yeah, that would be a tough ask. Whoever comes in next needs to just highlight to Amram that Rashford, Bruno, Shaw, Lindelof, Casemiro all need offloaded. The Pogba mentality has stuck with some of the players who experience it. I agree and disagree with that. I think the Pogba stuff is... Yeah, I would only see Rashford falling into that category. Shaw's injury prone. Lindelof's not good enough. Casemiro's too old. I think Bruno is the only one out of that I would disagree with. I know he hasn't been, he hasn't been burning it up lately. But when you think about what he's done consistently over how long he's been at United, I wouldn't be getting rid of Bruno Fernandes. No way. Would Osimhen come to us, though? He see the mess here and say, well, does he want to come and play in the Premier League, or does he want to stay in Turkey? You know what I mean? Bilal says, we do not tend to keep the ball. We are so bad, we cannot keep the ball, even if our lives depend on it. Technically, we are so poor. The likes of Aston Villa, Tottenham have better players. Let's see, what else have we got here? D says, Osimhen coming in is a massive plus. I reckon let him and Hyland train together. Let him, Hyland and Xerxes build a bond. Make them our two centre forwards and striker trio like MSN. Let's see. Dylan says, Amram wants... I can't pronounce that name. He said he really likes him. Yeah, but again, he's probably going to be another £100 million signing. Ben says, I think it'd be good for Hyland as well, Jack, to have someone to learn alongside. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do think, though, however, I think the majority of your progression comes on the field in the 90 minutes. You know, look at Ahmad as a prime example. You know, was stagnating, went out to Sunderland, ripped it up, came back to United, stagnated, started getting game time under Van Nistelrooy, and now under Amram, exploding. You know what I mean? But yeah, see, that's the issue. I think if Osimhen comes, he's going to want certain amount of assurances to say, I want to be, you know, I play. If you sign me, you fucking play me. End of story. So, but yeah. Anyway, let's see. Mark says, if we get Gyökeres or Osimhen, it will take time to settle in. So I don't think it's a good idea signing either one in January. Yeah, I just worry, Mark. That's the issue. I worry that, you know, our season will just peter out. You know, if we don't get somebody in who can score goals, that's the big concern for me. To be honest, we need a world class player. Jack, look at all the other top 5 clubs. They have a couple of world class players. We have none. Now, there are players at our club that could potentially be world class players, you know, and that's Ruben Amorim's job at the moment. You know, we're talking about Gyökeres coming from Sporting Lisbon. And then a lot of people are saying we've already got a ready-made one in Rasmus Højlund. He just needs time with Amram to find a system, to work it out, to get a bit of consistency, you know. And again, I mean, if we're talking about, if we're talking about the game on the weekend, did Hyland score? He did. He scored the first one. You know what I mean? So I think Hyland has scored 3 in his last 3 games as well. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's not scoring goals. You know what I mean? And if he can keep this trajectory going under Amram, then, you know, I'll be happy. I also think we have a superstar in Chido Obi Martin. He'll bag goals when he gets to the senior team. He will. He's only turned 17, so look, we're in no rush to get him into that team. You know, another couple of seasons, he'll be ready to rock and roll. I would say, I wouldn't be surprised even if he goes out on loan, to be honest with you, to get some game time. Let's see. Jack, if there's a possibility Bruno does go, we need 2 to 3 leaders. Bilal says, Jack, why would you want, or who would you want for left back if we sell Shaw, Malacia, someone with Premier League experience or some other league? Well, that brings me on nicely to this guy, Alphonso Davies, and coming from Florian Plettenberg, is it? No, sorry, Christian Falk from Sports Bild in Germany, saying that Alphonso Davies' camp have told Bayern Munich that the player has been approached by Manchester United and Real Madrid. Now, we do know that United have been linked with him and are interested in him. He's a free agent at the end of the season. This guy would be the ideal signing. I've mentioned this, and again, I'm not going to go too in-depth about Alphonso Davies because we mentioned him an awful lot last week when the news broke. This guy is the number one option, in my opinion, for that left wing back role. Absolute fantastic player. He's available on a free transfer at the end of the season. Come January, he's allowed to negotiate with other clubs. So Bayern Munich are under a lot of pressure to get him to sign a new contract before January, or else he can open talks with whoever he wants and then leave for free in the summer. It's going to be a very, very big ask to keep him out of the grasps of Real Madrid. It just is. You know what I mean? And again, a lot will depend on how Real Madrid do this summer or this season. You know, if they go far in the Champions League, whatever the case may be, they've got a fight to qualify still from the group stages. But A lot of that will depend on how their season goes. Alphonso Davies, I would love him. I really, really would love him. And we know that left back area and that left wing back area is a big area of concern. And yeah, I mean, Real Madrid are going all out for fullbacks by the looks of things, because, again, reports have come up today that they have added Diogo Dalot to their shortlist. They believe United would sell him for £45 million. Ruben Amorim, however, rates Dalot highly, and that's coming from Ben Jacobs. Again, I'll go back to what I've said about Dalot last week. I would be shocked if Diogo Dalot moves to Real Madrid. I think the only reason Dalot moves to Real Madrid would be if Trent Alexander-Arnold signs a new deal at Liverpool. I don't see why Real Madrid would spend nearly £50 million on Dalot when they could get Trent for free. Now, again, this is not going to be a January move. This is going to be for next summer. Of course it is. And I think a lot depends on, again, how the rest of the season goes, not only for Real Madrid, but for United. My concern here with Dalot and potentially getting rid of him is that if we do, Mazraoui is fantastic. I think Mazraoui deserves to be playing ahead of Dalot, and that, I know he's playing centre-back at the moment, but, if we have everybody fit, you're probably going to see Mazraoui move out to wing-back again. I think he starts ahead of Dalot, given his performances this season. However, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, when we were signing Mazraoui, oh, geez, that lad's injury-prone. And look, touch wood, no injuries, You would hope that can remain. And I do think if you sell Dalot, you have to replace him. Now, again, we've heard about Frimpong potentially being linked with Manchester United as well. I think the world and their grandmother are going to be linked with Frimpong in the summer again. I think he stayed on the back of a really, really good season with Leverkusen. They're obviously not doing as well this season. I don't know how they're actually doing. I'll have a quick look at that as well while I'm talking. So, again, like I said, I think if Dalot is sold, I think you see... if Dalot is sold, I think you see... I think you see a replacement coming in. I honestly do think you see a replacement coming in because Leverkusen are third in the league at the moment. They're 7 points off Bayern at the top. Frankfurt are actually ahead of them by a point. So yeah, I mean, if Dalot goes, I think we move for another right back. Absolutely, I think. Jared says, evening all, this sounds probably stupid to say, but some of this squad need a season out of Europe, then regroup again. See, the issue with that, Jared, and on the front of that, as a statement alone, I agree with you. But for a club the size of Manchester United, financially, when you're in debt like we are, and the Glazers have got us into that debt, you need European football for TV revenue. And secondly, you need to be able to attract players. That players want to play in Europe. You know what I mean? They want to play in Europe. So while I do agree with that statement, there are another side to it. Success breeds success, says Finn. We really need to start competing at the top soon to make the integration of all the youth academy stars seamless. Do you reckon money could hit the young players like it did to Rashford? We give Garnacho a new contract, Mane a new contract, and they end up like him? No, I don't think so. I think if you've got the right coach, if you got the right mentality within the dressing room, the right leaders at the club, that shouldn't be an issue. Big A says, Jack, I think you need to look at the bigger picture here. Like with the way the club is at the moment, what player is top tier stature is going to want to come to the club? I know I wouldn't if it was me. And I agree, man. I agree with you 100%. You're absolutely spot on. And again, that goes back to what I've said a few minutes ago, where, there may be a signing like Victor Osimhen that comes in the door for United, but we need to sprinkle it in and amongst the the young up-and-coming players that you're getting in under the radar, like what Ralph Rangnick said 2 or 3 years ago, young, hungry players under first and second contracts that are looking to make a name for themselves. Lenny Yoro is a great example of that. You know what I mean? They're the types of players that you need to be sprinkling. So I agree with you. The lure of Manchester United is not what it used to be in the 90s and the 2000s when Sir Alex Ferguson and United were in their pomp. Of course it's not. But it just takes that one fucking spark. That Eric Cantona signing that takes us from there to there. You know what I mean? That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And all of a sudden it catches fire. And you just don't look back. You know what I mean? We need that. We need that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about... This is before we finish about this guy, all right? And I know the comments are going to come flying in now straight away. Louis Saha has been speaking about Paul Pogba returning to Manchester United, all right? Louis Saha has said today, and again, I'm not going to go into this in too much depth, but Louis Saha has said, I've heard some rumours that Paul Pogba will be offered the opportunity to come back and train with Manchester United in the new year, and I think it would be a great opportunity for Paul. He needs to get back to his best level as quickly as possible, and training with top players will help him to do that. I think he would be thrilled to have the opportunity to go back to the club. It goes on to say that, and again, I didn't pull it all up here, but he goes on to say that there would be more positives for Manchester United to sign Pogba than there would be negatives. And I was just going, oh, Louis. It's ironic that it's another former French player saying this, and a Frenchman saying it, and obviously somebody who's probably close to Paul Pogba on some level. I don't think Ineos are going to be so stupid as to bring Paul Pogba back. I wouldn't let him within an ass's roar of Carrington, if I'm being 100% honest with you. First and foremost, again, I know it was overturned, but there was a doping charge there, okay? Second of all, he ran down his contract twice at Manchester United. First time he left for free, Ferguson was livid. He comes back to United for, 85 million, ran down his contract a second time and left for free again. You know what I mean? He was a social media FC player, rather dance on camera than put in performances for Manchester United. I would be so against this, and I think the majority of the United family, and look, do you know what? I think Ineos are smart. Ineos can read the room. I think they can read the room. When all of the Gareth Southgate rumours were popping up during the summer, and maybe Ashworth was one that was pushing, the Gareth Southgate issue, they said, no way. Look at what United fans are saying online about this. And again, fans don't determine anything, but you've got to read the room as well. And I think they're doing something. They would do something similar with Paul Pogba. I done a TikTok on it today, and I'd say out of 100 comments, 98 of them said, no way, stay away from him. You know what I mean? So, so I again, look, everybody in the chat is agreeing as well. So I don't think that's going to be the case, to be quite honest with you. I honestly don't. But look, the one thing I would say, guys, before we finish up, and again, we always try and finish on a positive, don't we? Dan Ashworth leaving. A lot of nonsense online saying, United are in crisis and this and that and the other. I don't think that's the case. I think it's Ineos being stern and knowing what they want. It will, and again, I go back to what I've said, it will take time for us to realise, and Ineos to realise, the decisions that they're making are correct or not. It will take time for that. It will take a year or two. But as of now, I mean, I'm happy with what Ineos are doing. I am happy with what they're doing. I think the club is going in the right direction. Again, we've heard Ruben Amorim say from the second he walked in the door, it's going to be very difficult, and there are going to be upsets and disappointments like we seen against Forest on the weekend. we've got to be, and again, I apologise about having to say this again, but we've got to be patient. We've got to be patient. We really, really do. We need to get behind the team. We need to get behind the players. Anybody that's putting on them jerseys, and I know they're old jerseys, but with that crest on it, any player that's putting on that jersey and running around for Manchester United on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday, whenever, or a Thursday night, whenever they're playing, we need to get behind them. Get behind the players, get behind the manager, buy into what Ineos are doing, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We've got nothing left to lose. You know what I mean? We really don't. We've had 20 years of absolute bollocks under the Glazers. I don't think it's as bad as the media are making it out to be, you know. And again, I'm not being, you know, blindly positive. You know, there are some negatives that, you know, and there always will be negatives. There always will be. I mean, every team has negatives. Liverpool signed Chiesa in the summer. Oh, Liverpool fans were creaming their pants over him. This guy, fucking unbelievable. He hasn't kicked the ball for him. He fucking injured. I told him to. I said it. I said that has been injured for 2.5 years. He had a good season about 3 years ago, and he's still living off it. So there's always bad things that are going on at a club. It just seems like United is, you know, and again, we are fucking, what are we, 13th in the league? Whatever the case may be. You know, results do need to improve on the pitch. But, yeah, I think we're under good management. That's what I would say. You know, we didn't massively spend in the summer. I thought we spent well. You know, getting the likes of De Ligt and Mazraoui for a combined 60 million was a fucking steal. Ugarte was good business. Lenny Yoro was brilliant business. Xerxes, question marks over it. Can't get them all right. But if you're getting 4 right out of 5 in every transfer window, it's not going to take long for us to drastically improve. And I think we've got the right manager as well. We'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate all of the comments. Do smash a like on the video if you haven't done so already. It helps us out an awful lot. If you can, on your way out, if you haven't done so, just hit that thumbs up button for me. Do hit subscribe as well if you're new to the channel, guys. I'll be back with, I'll be doing a match. I've got training tomorrow night, so I'll have the match preview either tomorrow or Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that as well. Make sure you're turning on the notification bell on YouTube as well. You get notified then anytime we're going live, so you won't miss out. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll chat to you tomorrow. Take it easy.